What's happening? Welcome to Wire Sports Podcast, show 104. I'm your host, Gene Walzak, the NFL genius. To my right to me, I got Cottrell playing around with microphones, the Kent State zone, Cleveland zone, college Cottrell, running college football right now.
Yes, sir.
Tell them how you're doing it, Cottrell. You're running the
Hey,
college football round. What are you doing, man?
I just got it in the sauce. It's corn.
It's corn. That's it's corn. But coming through right below me, I got Scholastic Uncle Shally. He's a little bit behind. He's a little upset this week. He told me before the show he was pissed off that he's behind in college football, but he's going to come back strong tonight with 7 winners. He said, forget 3. He's picking 7. I'm kidding.
This is all a lie.
I'm just having fun right now. I'm having fun. I got to share the link, everyone. So I'm going to share the link and Shally open us up and say some fun stuff.
Now, what are we starting with? Baseball?
We're starting with baseball, but let's share the link first. Let's say hello to the listeners. Let's be crazy.
I know I'm going to kick Gene's ass in fantasy this week. I know that.
You probably will. My team stinks in that league. It does. It's awful.
It's a good day to be talking about baseball. We got both of our teams in the playoffs, and I will tell you,
yours, bro.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'll tell you right now, I was fully expecting us to be 70 something and 90.
70 something and 90. That's always good.
Or high 80s. Like I did not see playoffs with this team, but here we are. Gene, I can't remember with the pre-show. Did you see the Phillies in the playoffs?
I did not. I had them as the 8th seed, missing it by 1. I had them at 85 wins. They're probably going to be at 86 or 87. So I was off by a victory or 2, and I'm glad about that. I'm glad because if they would have lost 1 extra game, I kind of would have been screwed. And they wouldn't have made the playoffs, and I would have been sitting up here and like, I was right. But now I get to watch wild card baseball this weekend, and it might surprise you guys for the very the crazy guy that never believes in his team. I don't know, man. I might pick them this week. You never know. You never know what happens.
Bill's got a grin. I know he's picking them.
I mean, we'll get there shortly. I missed it by a game. Gene missed it by 2. I had them at 88 wins. I don't think they're going to win tonight. I think they're going to lose. They're at 87 right now, and I think they're going to lose tonight. So the game might actually be over by now.
I think they're all over. I think they're all basically done at this point.
Yeah, that game just ended. They lost 3-2. So they ended up with 87 wins. So, I mean, me and Gene were both close. So
you had 89, right?
88.
I'm pretty sure you had 89. But it's okay. 89, 85. We both were 88. Off, but you at least had him in the playoffs. I don't think he had 88. I'm almost 100% sure. I listened to it. You did have him in the playoffs. I didn't. I had him missing by 1. But I did project that the Mets and Braves would make the playoffs. Where I went wrong is I projected the Padres to make the playoffs instead of the Phillies, and the Padres made the playoffs. Or the Brewers. I had the Brewers winning the. The Cardinals are the team that I messed up.
You missed by 1. I missed by 1. I did the same thing. I had the Brewers in over the Mets, but I did have Atlanta winning the division. So they came down the stretch hard and pulled that one out for me.
Well, I am super glad to be wrong. It's not every day that you're happy to be wrong, but today is one of those days. Last year I projected their win total to be exactly what it was. This year I was off by 2, and I couldn't be happier to be off by 2. I'm actually just sharing our group right now into a Yankees fans chat. Hopefully they'll listen in for the MLB segment, but their team won't be in the wild card, so I guess they don't have to worry about that. But we'll open up with wild card predictions before we get started with each series. Which wild card series are you most intrigued for without saying your team? So me and Bill won't say the Phillies. You don't say the Guardians, and that'll be good. Cottrell, get us started.
For me, it's Blue Jays Mariners. I think this is, with the Mariners having their drought fully be over now, and Toronto being a team that before the season I thought was going to make it to the World Series, and I thought they'd win the division as well, and they didn't do that. So I I mean, we talk about them all the time, their roster, how much we love their roster with the guys they have on it. I'm intrigued to see what they got, and I want to see how the Mariners fare in postseason baseball.
Hopefully they do terrible. I want the Blue Jays to win. I'm rooting for the Blue Jays.
Of course.
Mine is, I'll tell you right now, there's not much more of a hotter team in baseball right now than the Atlanta Braves, so they won't be playing wild card weekend. But I will say this, everyone put the San Diego Padres for dead, and I actually think that with the Mets backing into the playoffs and the Padres, who are basically, the Mets basically choked, playing against the Padres, I'm really excited to see what ends up happening with that Mets Padres series, because what the Mets are planning on doing is they're planning on starting DeGrom. Then if they win game one, they're going to start Bassett instead of Scherzer to see if they could save Scherzer for game one and then be able to start DeGrom on normal rest for game two, which I actually don't think is a bad idea, but they got to win game one. And they've been playing this game for a little while, and I don't know if it works out too well for them. Shall we?
I mean, that's a series that intrigues me the most. I'm going to disagree with you slightly about the Mets backing in. They played 600 baseball over the last month and a half. They weren't – what killed them was every time they played Atlanta head-to-head, Atlanta beat them. Atlanta from June 1st on played a little over 700 winning percentage baseball. They're doing exactly what they did last year. So, I mean, I don't think the Mets are reeling as bad as people make it out to be. And at the end of the day, like you said, they're going to go start game one. They're going to put DeGrom on the hill. He's looked like crap his last two starts, though. He got shelled by Oakland, and can't remember who his last start was. He got beat up pretty bad.
He didn't get beat up. He didn't get beat up. He let up three home runs though. He let up 3 solo home runs to the Braves, and the Braves start in Atlanta. He pitched really well in that game outside of 3 bad at bats.
Him giving up 3 home runs in a game is I mean, you got a better chance of seeing a lot of crazy things than you do seeing that ever again.
That's fair.
But listen, I mean, he's healthy. He's going to go out and do his thing. I think San Diego played well down the stretch, and they did what you have to do if you want to make the playoffs. They didn't have the hardest schedule, but they went out and beat everybody they were supposed to beat, and that's what you have to do. They're playing well. They have a lot of confidence right now. It's going to be interesting to watch. I think that's the most competitive series, and probably going to be the most highly watched series in the first round. I do agree with Cottrell as well, though. I think that Tampa Bay Seattle series Toronto Seattle series a little bit tighter than people would like to give it credit for. Seattle's going to have the pitching to stay in that. It's going to be a matter if they can score. They're going to go out with Robbie Ray and Luis Castillo and see what happens. I would give a slight edge to Toronto, obviously, because of that lineup. The odds of you shutting them down for 2 out of 3 games that's a tough hill to sled. So, but that being said, I think Seattle gives them hell. I really do.
So let's project series then. Seattle versus Toronto sounds like a good place to start. 3-game series in Toronto. Who do you think wins the series?
I'm going to go with Toronto, but I'm going to go 3. I think Seattle sneaks one of the first 2 games. I think that the huge advantage Toronto has is whatever combination they go with between Gausman and Barrios and all those guys. Whoever starts game 3 for them is going to be better than whoever Seattle throws out there. And like I said, then I'll take the better starter, and I'll take Toronto's lineup in game 3. So I think Toronto wins, but I think it's 3 games.
I wanted to say what's popping, everybody in the chat. Sorry, I got put in Facebook jail for sharing the post too much. Key in the building, what's going on? PD, what's up? Appreciate Timmy Todd. Appreciate you guys all hopping on. ECG. I got Toronto in that series also. I have Toronto in 3. I think they'll win it on Sunday. I think that it's a 2-1 series. I think they might even lose game 1. But I got Toronto in that series 2-1. Cottrell?
I'm also rolling with Toronto. I think it's going to be 2-0 though. I think with the Blue Jays, obviously they're going to be the home team. I think it's interesting how they're doing it now too. There's not going to be any traveling. All games are going to be played in the same ballpark. So I think that, I mean, obviously teams play better at home, but I just feel like that Blue Jays team in their home ballpark, they're going to be amped, ready to go. The Mariners, it's such a feel good story. I feel like they're going to have a lot of pressure on their backs, and I just think the Blue Jays are going to be ready, amped to go, and I think they roll 2-0 on this one.
Okay. Let's move. Let's stay in the AL then. You got your Guardians. Do you think they stand a chance? Like, what are your thoughts on the Cleveland Guardians? Cottrell, start us off.
So I think they stand a chance, but I think the most important game is game one. You know, if you can find a way to beat McClanahan on the mound, then I think you win it. You win 2-0, and I think you're pretty happy with how everything goes. But like I said, big issue is that game one. The Indians don't have that true like power hitter. They got J-Ram, but like they don't have that true power hitter, the guy who outside of J-Ram that comes up, you're like, hey, he's going to do exactly what we need him to do. They're so young across the board. I just don't know how those guys are going to fare in postseason baseball. It's nice because they have this small ball kind of lineup where, you know, they'll get a single and they stack runs up in the same inning. So if it's a 2-3 run lead, like they're able to put runs together because the way Tito manages the hell out of the game for him. But I like the Guards to win. I got the Guards in 3. I think they somehow find a way to get game 1, lose game 2, game 3. I think they find a way to steal it.
Shally, what are your thoughts on the Guardians versus Rays?
I think if the Mariners are the feel good story, I think the Guardians is kind of the unexpected story. None of us. Cottrell, did you even pick them to win the Central?
Absolutely not.
Yeah,
none of us in last place.
None of us.
Not last place. I thought we'd be ahead of the Tigers, but man,
none of us had them sneak it in. And it's again. I think that one of the advantages Cleveland does have is Tito Francona. We're familiar with him when he was here with the Phillies. Great manager, absolute great manager. That being said, I like the Rays. I like the Rays pitching better. Bieber, you're gonna get Bieber McClanahan in the first game. I think McClanahan's better, and I think the really big thing for Cleveland, they have to win game 1. If the Rays somehow win game 1, they're coming back with Glass now, who's back from Tommy John early last year in game 2. I think Cleveland's in a lot of trouble. I'm going to take the Rays. Sorry, Cottrell. I'm going to take the Rays 2-0.
I'll take the Rays 2-1. I think Rays win the series in 3. I think it's a great story for the Guardians. I think the Guardians lose game 1, come back and win game 2, and then lose game 3. So I'll take the Rays in 3. Let's move over to
Gene.
Yeah.
If they find a way to beat Shane game 1, you rolling with us?
Of course. If you beat McClanahan in game 1, I think Tampa Bay's in a lot of trouble. To have to win 2 straight games on the road for games 2 and 3 is, I'm 100%. I would love to see the spread for game 1. It's got to be like a -195 for Tampa Bay, even though it's in Cleveland.
No, we're actually the favorites for it. It's like we're like -125, I think. Something.
You guys are the favorites in game 1 over McClanahan?
We are. Yeah,
that tells me everything I need to know. Then I might have to change my pick. I would think that's wild.
I believe it was like 125, 120, -120, something
125.
Like
that. -125 for a home playoff game.
Pick them basically.
It's a damn near pick up for a home team. So
I don't know. All right, but let's move over to the National League. Let's talk about the Mets. The Mets are going to play a home series versus the Padres. Do they win it in 2? Do they win it in 3? Do the Padres pull up the upset?
I don't personally see it happening. I like the Mets. I think they got pretty much an automatic game with DeGrom. I think that's out the gate. Padres are going to be up against it 0-1 on the road. And I think it's smart. You mentioned what the Mets want to do with Scherzer, holding him out. I think that's smart just because, this Padres team, I think it would be a lot more interesting if Tatis was playing. I think the way everything's set up right now, I like the Mets. I know they haven't been as dominant as what we saw, July or June, but I think the Mets go up 2-0 and take care of business.
So I follow that. I think the Mets' biggest issue has nothing to do with their pitching staff. And when you say it's a no-brainer with DeGrom or it's an automatic win, I couldn't disagree with you more. I think the Mets just have been their hitting woes are their issue. They could end up going out and losing that game 1-0. DeGrom could pitch a gem. The Mets' biggest issue right now is scoring. They haven't been able to score. And I think that the Mets win the series, but I think they actually have to use a third game. And Scherzer pitches that third game. I think that's a little bit of an issue there. And they walk into I think Carrasco might have to start game 1 versus the Dodgers, which would be very tough for them to end up having to go for their number 4 start, because Bassett's been pitching his ass off. And I think but I think they might lose game 1. I think they might shock a lot of people. The Mets, it's funny. I talked to Adrian a lot because he's a huge Mets fan. He's like one of the best surefire bets in baseball is bet on the other team when DeGrom's minus 300 or more. I don't know if he's minus 300 in game 1. I haven't looked at the odds in game 1. I'm sure it's probably not that high. It's probably like a minus 220.
Minus 170.
See, that's good for the Mets. But the point being is the Mets really just don't hit well right now. And I think the hitting well and DeGrom starts are just, I don't know, just not. I'm not a huge fan right now of what they're doing with the Mets hitting. I just think that's an issue. Shally, what are your thoughts?
So, what's your prediction?
I got the Mets in 3.
Okay, I'm doing the same thing. I think they're actually going to show up. They hit the ball well last week, and again, I mean, it's they're going to. I'm assuming they're going to get you in game 1. So, I think after that, to your point, Bassett hasn't pitching well. I'm assuming they're going to pitch Manaea game 2. That's an interesting game. That's a real interesting game. The only thing I'm going to double down on it is, the Mets have struggled to score a little bit. The Padres still aren't killing the ball. Machado stayed hot. Soto has not been. He's had games where he looks like Juan, and he has other games where he's looked like a player we've never seen before. And the rest of that lineup, they can struggle to score as well. I think the series as a whole, believe it or not, I think this is the lowest scoring series of all of them. I think you're going to get pretty good pitching. You have both teams that are not super confident at the plate. And I'll take Scherzer in game 3 against either Clevenger or Blake Snell, whoever the Padres decide to throw. But I think it's a very good series. I think it's competitive. I think it's low scoring.
Phillies at Cardinals. Zach Wheeler is going to pitch a game 1. Aaron Nola game 2. Phillies named their game 3 starter if necessary. It's going to be Ranger Suarez. I'll tell you right now, I think the best matchup for the Phillies in the entire playoffs is the Cardinals. And I'm chomping at the bit. I think the Phillies win this series. I think the Phillies win this series versus the Cardinals. I believe it or not, I just think that the Phillies play the Cardinals well. I think that Adam Wainwright with that loopy curveball, if he ends up pitching, I think the Phillies rock him. It's not the Adam Wainwright of old. I think the Phillies win this series. I think they win it in 3. I think they win it on the back of Ranger Suarez.
I'm going the Phillies. I'm going the Phillies 2-0. We have 2 horses. Aaron Nola set a record the other day. First pitcher ever to have over 220 Ks in a season, under 30 walks. You look at his win-loss record, and you think he's not having a great year. You put that aside, you look at his advanced analytics, probably the best year of his career. He's pitched great this year, and I'm one of his biggest critics. The biggest advantage the Phillies have is something Gene kind of touched on a little bit. The two weapons that the Cardinals have are Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt. If you look at their career numbers against both Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola, they are terrible. They're not good. You keep those guys in the park and without doing too much damage, I think the Phillies have a great shot to win. The Cardinals have not announced their rotation yet. I would assume Wainwright's getting the ball game 1. He's
He
got the most
is.
experience. I don't know who they come back with after that, though. It could be
I thought they
Montgomery.
said Flaherty's going to be. If Flaherty's ready or not.
Listen, Flaherty's a top 20 guy in the league when he's healthy. He's been hurt for 2 straight years. He's got great stuff. I'm assuming you're getting Flaherty. If it goes to game 3, you're probably getting Montgomery, or maybe Carlos Quintana. I don't know. It's going to be one of the 2 of them. But I like the Phillies' chances. I think they're hitting. I think they are. I think they're going to ride the momentum. I really do. I like that clubhouse. You got hungry guys, and again, it's just as crazy as it sounds to say, I think our lineup is drastically better than St. Louis's top to bottom. I'll take our depth. I'll take our starting pitching, and I'll go the Phillies. I think the Phillies win 2-0.
Love it. Cottrell, are we being homers?
No, I mean, I think this is the one series. Like, obviously, I know you guys picked the Rays, but I think this is the one series where the away team has the most likely chance to win the series. I trust the Phillies pitching more than I trust what the Cardinals have already. You guys already mentioned your top guys going up against their top guys. With Adam Wainwright being 125 years old at this point, Flaherty hasn't really pitched much this season. I would tend to lean the Phillies' way, but I'm going with the Cardinals here, and I got the Cardinals in 3. I didn't realize that win percentage wise, the Cardinals are one of the best teams at home. Like, I think they were 3rd or 4th in the league record wise, in their ballpark. So those guys play really well at home, and I think the 3rd game's just it's going to be that toss up kind of game. But I see numbers wise what they've done in 82 games at their home park, and they find ways to win. So I'm rolling with the Cardinals, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if the Phillies win it in 3.
All right. So, my secondary question I wanted to ask you guys before we move off of baseball, because I'm so happy to be talking about baseball and playoff baseball at that, is what 1 or 2 seed do you see that, because we won't be back on air until they're already starting round 2. What 1 or 2 seed in either AL or NL do you feel like is on the biggest upset alert? Do you feel like is most likely to get knocked off before the ALCS and NLCS?
This is easy
For me. It's easy. Yeah.
Okay.
I would say the Yankees, me personally. I just don't think that. I mean, obviously, hitting wise, their lineup is up there with everybody else in the major leagues. If they're not one, they're top 3. But at the end of the day, like, you got to have the pitching to be consistent and for you to go and beat some of those tough teams. So I think it's easily, if they have a couple bad games at the plate, it's easy for them to get knocked off.
I agree 100%. I think it's the Yankees. Garrett Cole hasn't been great this year. He's been good, not great. And behind him, it's a mess. I mean, you got Severino, Cortez. I mean, I don't know. If you're a Yankees fan, I don't think you could be super confident going into a series with Toronto, who's seen those guys all year, and is used to hitting them. I mean, I don't know. It's the Yankees, and I think a lot of things have been overshadowed the last month of how bad they're playing with the whole Aaron Judge home run chase and all that. It's getting a lot of publicity, and you're seeing that they're not hitting well. If you're paying real attention to what they're doing, they're losing a lot of 4-2 ball games. Aaron Judge has carried that team. I'll tell you right now, in the playoffs, nobody's pitching to him. He's not going to get pitched to.
Well, he hasn't got pitched to. He hasn't really hit well. We thought it was a given when he would hit 62, and yes, he did hit 62. But did you think it was going to take until game 160 to do it?
No, I mean, in that aspect, I mean, it's people were being careful with him, but on top of that, he was pressing as well. He admitted that big time last night after he finally hit it. He said the relief when he took that swing and knew it was gone was just, he said it was overwhelming. He said the relief was even a better feeling, more so than realizing what he just did. The playoffs, it don't matter. That's all a clean slate now. Everybody starts at 0. And again, he's the only guy that's really putting up any numbers. Nobody's going to pitch to him. Baseball playoff is cutthroat. If he comes up with 2 outs and nobody's on base, go to first. See you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though. Wouldn't the Yankees get the winner of the Guardians Rays, not the
Oh, well, they would,
Not
yeah, 2-3, yeah. So yeah,
so.
They're not
I
gonna.
think
They're not reseeding it.
nah,
there's
doesn't
no
get
reseed.
Yeah.
So my question would be, do you think the Astros got the short end of the stick? Because I think it's very clear that the third and fourth best teams in the American League are Toronto and Seattle. So I think the fifth and sixth best teams in the American League are the Rays and the Guardians. Am I wrong saying that? Like, I'm not trying to disrespect the Guardians, but like, I think it's very clear that Toronto is the third best team in the AL. No,
I don't think that's disrespect. I mean, I think it's
Yeah.
clear that the Blue Jays have a better team. I don't think the Guardians are really they're really not supposed to be in this situation right
correct.
now. So
I
I
just
don't think
didn't want
it's
to come off
disrespect.
like rude to you, man. I know you got a lot of Cleveland listeners.
No, it's not disrespect.
I mean, it's just facts, and the old saying goes, man, facts don't care about your feelings, and that's a perfect example for it. I don't think it's short end of the stick though. They're going to be home. Houston is playing lights out baseball. I hate them. You saw it again last night, dude. Verlander, Valdez, that pitching staff, that lineup. I don't think they're, I mean, I think they're going to go out and they're going to play ball, and I think, I think they're a better team than Toronto. I mean, Toronto would definitely have the ability to go in there and win. Don't get me wrong. They're a talented young group, but you're looking at the experience and the talent on Houston's team, not only the pitching staff, but that lineup's nasty. I mean, 1 through 7, there's no easy outs on that team. None. They're going to be a really tough out. They're the 1 seed for a reason. They're the best team in the American League. So
Well, let me take it a step further then. They talk about this in football all the time about once you get in the playoffs to be able to reseed like the way without division winners. Do you think the MLB would, like, obviously you win your division, you get in the playoffs, but do you think it would be better for Major League Baseball to not automatically give a division winner the 3 seed, to like have the 1 and 2 seeds be the best 2 records and then reseed from 3 to 7 based off of record? Because if that was the case, you would avoid the 1 seed playing the team that it happened in both conferences. The Central is worse than the 2nd seed in the East. If you just really break it down, the Mets are going to play the Dodgers. The Dodgers fought all year for the 1 seed, and they're going to get the 3rd best team in the National League. And it happened in the American League that the Rays are better than the Guardians. I'm sorry. The Blue Jays are better than the Guardians record wise, and they're going to get the Houston, who fought all year to get the 1 seed. Like, wouldn't it be better to be the 2 seed so you can face like the lighter division winner? Like, I think that's not fair to be the 1 seed, fight all year, and you get the better of the teams in the semifinals, especially in that short series, because it goes 3-5-7. So it's a 5-game series. You only have to beat them 3 times. I think that bodes really well for a team like the Mets, who could throw DeGrom, Scherzer, Bassett, Carrasco, and DeGrom again. In a 5-game series, you're going to get DeGrom twice and Scherzer once. That's tough. I just feel like that's not the way it should be. I don't feel like it comes off fair.
I'll say this. In the sense of it being fair, I somewhat agree with you. I don't think you could do that though in the first round with the division winner. If you want to reseed it after that original wild card round, I think I'd be more open to that. But after you go win your division, I think that alone is enough to get you that ranking. You should be a top 3 seed.
Well,
You should have home
playoffs.
field. It should get you home field. But I don't know. I think you should be a top 3 seed automatically if you win your division.
Okay.
I agree. I mean, it's winning your division has to matter. And you can't. I don't think you could penalize a team for winning a division and then be like, oh well, you're going to go to be the 6th seed now because of record. I think this year it plays into what you're talking about really well. I think other years it won't. And I think you just keep it consistent and you go with what it is. Toronto's a tough team, but listen, I mean, you're going to have to beat them at some point. Same thing with the Mets. I mean, all roads go through LA if you want to get there, and you're going to be away regardless. So, I do the pitching staffs. The pitching stuff still favors the team sitting and waiting. Like Houston will be able to throw Verlander twice, probably get Valdez, maybe Valdez twice. His second start will probably be on short rest though. And at that point, the Mets have a little bit of an advantage in this hypothetical because they could pitch Carrasco in a middle game if they had to give somebody an extra day's rest. But I think it's fine the way it is. I mean, like I said, I don't think you could penalize a team for winning a division based on record. I just don't. I think it's got to matter. I
The
think
Guardians have the same record as the Blue Jays, but the argument would be the Blue Jays kind of let off the gas when they locked up the wild card, and the Guardians kind of let off the gas too. But the big difference is in the National League. There's 3 100-win teams, and the Dodgers won 111, and then the Braves 101, and the Mets 100. So like what you're running into right there is just it's like the 101 should face the 100, not the 111 should face the 100. I get it. I just an opinion. Obviously, I have my crazy opinions.
I think at the end of the day, if you want to go be a world champion, you got to go through everybody anyway. So
I get it.
Doesn't matter too much.
What's the point of getting the 1 seed? It's the easiest road.
But it's not. But that's not always going to be the case though, because I mean, there could be, if let's say all 3 division winners they go 111, 105, and then 102, and then you got some wild card teams that sprinkle in, and somehow, some way, the 6 seed wild card team they only win 84 games, but then they win their series. So it changes from year to year.
Okay. Well, let's move on. We got some football to talk, some pigskin. We got NFL 4. We're going to start with NFL this week. A little bit lighter week on the NFL docket. So we want to start with NFL before we get into NCAA. Recap week 4. Some good football games. Somebody went 3-0 again. I don't know who that was. I don't know. Could be me. I don't know. Hey, listen, I'm going to need a bigger camera to fit my head in the building if I go 3-0 again. But I will say this. This week of the NFL was the most predictable week of the NFL season for me. This coming week, I will tell you right now, it is one of the toughest weeks I've ever seen to be predictable. Like, to me, I looked at this week, I'm like, bang, 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 easy, easy, easy. I could see it. This week, I don't see it. There's a couple games I like, but like if I was going 3 and 4 and 5 units last week, this would be my 1 unit plays. This would be my smaller plays. But week 4, let's recap. The Kansas City Chiefs beat up on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Patrick Mahomes looked incredible, spinning around, throwing the ball from his other foot and flipping it over, and unbelievable, right? Patrick Mahomes is like really taking that criticism of being maybe not the best quarterback in his division, maybe not the best team in his division, the toughest division in football. Patrick Mahomes is taking that shit personal, right? 41 points on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is no slouch. And they let the foot off the gas. They could have scored more.
Yep.
It's very, very obvious. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen with a huge win, right? Come from behind down 20-3 versus the Ravens. The Ravens blew another fourth quarter lead. John Harbaugh is going to have to, him and Kyle Shanahan are going to have to hang out together with their blown fourth quarter leads because they're known for it. Their teams just gas in the fourth quarter and they just get slower and slower. And by the way, it was the first game Buffalo's won, final possession game in 2 years. Pretty exciting week. Who's your favorite game this week, Cottrell?
Favorite game, honestly, I would go Jets Steelers, just because of my rooting interest, and that game came down to the wire. It's kind of cool to see Kenny Pickett come in and make his mistakes, but I mean, it's funny because he went 10 for 13, all 3 incompletions were interceptions. But I mean, other throws that he had, it was like, all right, like maybe this kid's gonna be something if he tones down on the mistakes. But ultimately, the Steelers lost, and so that always makes me happy. And yeah, I mean, came down to the last second. It was a come from behind win. Jets were down, and somehow, some way, Zach Wilson led a drive, and Breece Hall punched it in late. So
somehow, some way, Zach Wilson's a stud now. Remember?
Sure.
Favorite game, shall we?
Zach Wilson probably looked like shit this week because he's gonna be tired from hanging out with Giselle all week.
Soundbite.
I will. I'm actually gonna go Kansas City, Tampa Bay. That was you touched on the Patrick Mahomes stuff already. He looked incredible. Tom Brady had a good game. I mean, it was just Tampa Bay could not stop Patrick Mahomes. But anytime you get two guys like that on the field, literally going up and down, it's a pleasure to watch. It really is, and you don't get to see it too much. I mean, that is a marquee quarterback matchup in this league, no matter how you slice it. And I put it in a group chat when we were watching it. He was just on a different level that night, doing playground stuff, but being on the money with everything. He showed up in Tampa Bay to play, and it's just fun to watch. It really is a pleasure. It's a privilege. It really is.
So my favorite game this week, and I had a few of them, right? It could have been the Eagles game and that Rain Bowl or the Hurricane Bowl in Philadelphia, but that wasn't it. Could have been the Buffalo Bills' huge comeback over the Ravens and watching the Ravens shit the bed in the fourth quarter again. That wasn't it either. My favorite game this week was a game I thought was going to be a blowout and turned out to be a really good game. It was the Patriots versus the Packers. Bailey Zappi came in for Brian Hoyer, who got injured, led a couple touchdown drives. Aaron Rodgers came back each time, took the lead. You got a Hail Mary kind of throw. It was not like then you get overtime, and the Packers win the game 27-24. And you get the good sound bites after the game. And the Packers win games, they're really supposed to win easily, and they're a lot closer. This is not sustainable. Rodgers very upset after a win. He expects excellence out of those guys. But that was my favorite game. It was a really good football game. Back and forth the whole game.
It's a freaking douche.
Oh, man. Bill cannot hide his disdain for Aaron Rodgers anymore.
Dude, it's just the stuff he says, man. Like, you play a game like that, and it's no different than any other week. You play a team you should kill, you win in overtime, and it's they're playing against a third string quarterback of New England, and it's always everybody but him. Just the whole woe is me, and I never do anything wrong. Like, it's just the dude's just shit. He's a shitty leader. I can't stand him.
I'm not going to disagree with you on that. But during that game, Romeo Dubs dropped a surefire touchdown, and game's over. He catches it. Ultimately, the Packers still won, but that did happen. That's all I'm gonna say.
It did. I mean, it's just, again, that gets highlighted. But if he throws an interception or he misses somebody that's wide open, if that wide receiver would be like, I had 5 steps on my guy and he overthrew me. If he hits me in stride, we win the game. Aaron Rodgers would lose his goddamn mind. You're right. That dude, there'd be hell to pay if that happened. It's just
100%.
I think Christian Watson had a nice touchdown. I think that they're turning him into a Deebo Samuel like running back at this point. But I think he'll develop. I think Romeo Dubes will develop. I think Alan Lazard will continue to get better during the year. And I think the Packers have a really light set of games that are coming up. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But let's get into some previews, man. Let's get into some previews. We got a couple to get into. So, there we go. Week 5 preview. Rams at Cowboys. You guys didn't add this on your list, but 2 3-1 teams. Had to add it. Had to talk about it. The Rams lost. They're 2-2. But the Rams at Cowboys, 3-1. It's at LA. I got to stop doing this. Cowboys at Rams.
Really got none of it right. It's fine.
2-2 Rams versus the 3-1 Cowboys. I'll tell you right now, nicest way I could put it. Let me just make this simple. Okay. Matt Stafford looks terrible. He looks like he stinks. Now, I hate saying the guy just won the Super Bowl, and I understand that. Matt Stafford looks awful. It's 4 games into the season. He didn't look good versus Arizona. He didn't look good versus Buffalo. He didn't look good versus Atlanta. And he definitely didn't look good versus San Francisco, who 100% destroyed him all night. He has no no chemistry with Allen Robinson. They signed him. It means nothing. You're talking about re-signing Odell Beckham Jr. When can he be ready? I think the Rams are in full-fledged panic alert. And on the other end, Dallas Cowboys are 3-1. Could there be a quarterback controversy in Dallas? I don't think so,
No.
because they just gave Dak all that money. But hey, Cooper Rush is 4-0 as a starter, 3-0 this year and 1-0 last year.
$40 million quarterbacks don't sit on the bench.
Well,
Dak
listen,
stinks.
call it like it is, brother. If a guy keeps winning, how did Dak Prescott get his job?
Hey,
How did Dak Prescott get his job?
Tony Romo was not making $40 million at that point. That Dak
making a
took
lot
over.
though.
Wasn't $40 million, and it wasn't a 5-year extension.
That's their fault for giving him $40 million.
I don't know
like
what
they
team.
can't trade him.
I don't know what team in their right mind would trade for Dak at that price tag.
Yeah, if
Who
you trade
in the NFL,
if you trade him,
if
you trade him, you're
why
still
would you
eating.
go after a quarterback that's getting paid that much? Then you're destined to stink for 5 years straight.
I don't think there's a quarterback controversy, but I love stewing shit in Dallas. So you got to give me a little bit of
enough.
I don't think so, but I love it.
I'll tell you this. Cooper goes into LA and beats the Rams, and then Dak comes back the following week in Philly and loses. Then watch the shit start. That's when it'll get hilarious. They'll be killing each other. They'll be killing each other. It'll be hysterical.
They said, is that official that Dak's coming back versus Philly?
Jerry Jones said yesterday that it's
he can't grip the football right now.
He can't grip it comfortably, so he's at least another week out. So he's not playing. He's not playing Sunday.
Oh, I knew he wasn't playing this Sunday. I'm asking, is it official he's coming back versus the Eagles? Because I would love that. Dak's return game.
They're trying, I'm sure, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if common sense plays into a factor there somewhere, and they go, let's not bring him back in this game, and save some face a little bit and start him when we get back home the following week. But who knows? Who knows?
I think if Cooper can find a way to win here, there's no point to rush him.
Yeah.
No pun intended. But I feel like this would make the most sense because somehow, some way, the Cowboys are 4-1. Dak hasn't played since week 1. Why would you rush him back? Because at this point, you have a very good probability of making the playoffs. And if you really want to compete in the playoffs, Dak's going to be your starting quarterback. Yes, it's nice Cooper's getting all this love now. I mean, if you watch their games, the offense has been super simplified. And in the playoffs, Cooper's not beating any team that has a legit game plan for him. So I think long term it'd be better for the Cowboys to just keep Dak on the pine, ride the hot hand right now, and then once Dak's ready, fully ready, you throw him back in there.
How long do you ride the hot hand now?
At least until Dak's 90%.
Let's just for shits and giggles, let's theoretically say they beat the Rams this week, which I think is plausible. But let's say they come in here and they knock us off. Then what do you do?
Is Dak healthy after that?
Yep.
Go back to Dak.
I don't care. I just want to watch Dallas implode. And if that means it's Dak coming back and you sit the guy who goes 6-0 on the bench, then whatever. So be it. Watch Jerry Jones pull his hair out. Mike McCarthy just yell and eat Twinkies. I'm fine with it. Whatever.
I don't think we'll have to worry about that too much. I think the Rams defense absolutely handles the Cowboys this week. I think it's a very bounce back situation for them. Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Bobby Wagner. I think the Rams defense eats, and I think Matt Stafford scored enough points to be able to beat the Cowboys. I think at 23-17 LA.
I am picking this game, so I'm taking the Rams as well. I think that the way that the Rams are, the way their defense is, I think they'll handle Cooper pretty handedly, and I don't see a situation where Dallas can win this game. I think now that teams are starting to get more film on Cooper, we're gonna start to see this Linsanity-ish wave slow down. So I'm rolling with the Rams here.
All right, next on the docket. This is the one I added. I messed up. I added this game. 3-1 versus 3-1. We couldn't leave it out.
You just adding all types of games here.
No, I didn't add the Rams game. That was the game we had. We had 2. I added the third one because these 2 games are 3-1. I wanted to just throw you off, throw a 2, 3-1 teams in here. The Packers, Aaron Rodgers, going across the pond to go against the New York Football Giants and Saquon Barkley as their starting quarterback this week. What do you guys think? Listen, at the end,
I'm picking this as well, but again, I think I know what you're trying to do here, and I get it, and obviously it's discussing a football game, so let's do it. But I think the Giants are full strength. I think maybe this is a better discussion. Doesn't look like Daniel Jones is going to play. Tyrod Taylor's not even going to travel. He's in concussion protocol. They've been working out quarterbacks the last 2 days to figure out who they're going to start Sunday. And
Jacob Fromm.
Might be Jacob Fromm. It might be Saquon. They might just say screw it and run Wildcat. I don't know what they're going to do. I think Green Bay is definitely the better team. If the Giants are full strength, I think this is a little bit of a better discussion. But I would be shocked if the Packers don't win this game.
I'll say this. From what I saw Daniel Jones practice today. I think he'll probably be the starter for Sunday. But regardless of that, I don't even think that that's the Giants' biggest issue right now. They got 3 healthy receivers on their entire roster. And not only do you not have a quarterback throwing them the ball, you don't have starting guys that you could put out there. And if the Packers are smart, they load the box and, slow down Saquon and make the Giants pass the ball. And if you could find a way to get up on them early and they have to, throw the ball over the yards, try to come back, then the game's going to get out of hand. But I like the Packers, and I think they take care of business pretty comfy. Double-digit victory, 10, maybe 13-point win.
I like the Packers in this one also. I think Daniel Jones ends up starting, though. Across the pond, baby. Got to get the London games in. Little eggs in football.
That's eggs and eggs, baby. Does. That's crab cakes in football.
I know. Ravens versus Bengals. Versus Bengals. Joe Burrow owns the Ravens, and I'm going to go with the Bengals to give the Ravens another loss. Just made a trade in one of my fantasy football leagues. Let me start there. Just acquired Jamar Chase, so I need him to go off. I traded Nick Chubb, you got to trade them at their height, right? I traded Nick Chubb at his height. Nick Chubb.
Your low-key Nick Chubb hate on this show is wild to me.
I drafted him in the first round.
You got rid of him as soon as you could. You give Cottrell shit all the time when we talk good about him. You low-key hate Nick Chubb, and I don't understand.
All right,
give the man some respect.
Let me
just a little bit. Damn.
Follow me. You might have made the trade too. I traded Nick Chubb, Pat Freiermuth, and Mike Williams. And in return, I got James Robinson, running back from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Keep in mind, I have ETN just in case one of them goes down. Jamar Chase and Tyler Algier, because Cordell Patterson's out. So I got
4 weeks.
For 4 weeks.
2 starting running backs and a stud wide receiver for a running back like Chubb that's going against his toughest competition in the next 5 weeks.
What's your record right now in that league?
3-1.
What are you doing? If you were 1-3, maybe even 2-2, I'm feeling that trade. Mix it up a little bit. But I think Jamar. Obviously, I think out of everyone in there, fantasy football wise, Jamar is the most valuable piece there. So at least you're getting that in return. But I don't know about Chubb and Mike Williams, especially with Mike Williams being there.
James Robinson.
Legit.
Listen.
Right
yeah, all right, but Jamar Chase is obviously the better wide receiver there.
You do
RJ,
it.
I don't know if I do.
RJ really said it's vetoable. Like he said they should veto it. Because
you want to talk about vetoable? You should see this bullshit RJ sent me over like 15 minutes ago before the show.
RJ is the worst. You can't trade with RJ.
Bro, ready? This is what he sent me. I give up James Robinson, Drake London, and Melvin Gordon, who's now a bona fide running back 1, He's giving me Michael Thomas, James Conner, Gerald Everett, and Corey Davis.
Oh, RJ. The trade he offered Jacob was the greatest trade ever.
Is that
I
what they
wish
were
I could
talking about in the
remember.
chat?
Yes, the trade he offered Jacob was showed it to me.
RJ
It was
is a
awful.
fleece artist. He's a
He
fleece
is.
artist,
Bro.
He
man.
fleeces everyone.
He fleecing me.
All right, back to the football games. Joe Burrow, I don't know why. He has such a bone to pick with the Ravens, but he was in an interview in this offseason. He was talking about how they kicked their ass twice and threw for 500 yards once and 5 touchdowns in the other one.
I beat him again.
Yeah, I'm going to take Cincinnati in this one. I think Joe Burrow has the Ravens number. I think Jamar Chase eats. I think they line Marlon Humphrey up with him, and I think that's a mistake. You don't want to. You got to double team him, and if you're not going to double team him, Jamar Chase is going to destroy you. So I think that what a lot of teams have been doing to slow down Jamar Chase is they've been doubling him with the safety. I think the Ravens are so cocky they're going to end up putting man-to-man coverage with their number one cornerback, and I think that Jamar Chase eats in that situation. But I like the Bengals in this one.
It's a tale of two teams here. I mean, you watch Baltimore play. We talked about it a little bit earlier. You watch Baltimore play through quarters 1 through 3, and they look like they could win a Super Bowl. And they get in the fourth quarter, and they just melt. I just don't get it. And then you have the Cincinnati team who looked like they were going to be left for dead almost after week 2, and now they kind of their trajectory, they're starting to ramp up and starting to look a little bit like the team that went to the Super Bowl last year. This one's tough. I mean, I got to think it's a gut check game for Baltimore at some point. I mean, you got to go out and play 4 quarters. I mean, you lose three in a row, 2 of them which will be at home. This is a division rival. This is a tough game. Man, I really don't know. I do agree. I think they're going to try to single cover Chase because if they double him, I think Higgins and Boyd are probably going to go off then. And I don't, Baltimore. I don't know where else they're going to go for offense. I will go Cincinnati 31-23.
Okay.
Bill, I somewhat disagree with you in the sense of how the Bengals have looked the past 2 weeks. They look good against the Jets. That game against the Dolphins, I will say, obviously things got ramped up for them after Tua got hurt. But even then, I mean, they had the long ball to T. Higgins that went for the touchdown. But outside of that, I don't know what it is, but their offense just they don't seem to be on the same page. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, they brought everybody back from last year. Joe Mixon still hasn't gotten it together yet. I mean, he doesn't look like the same back that, before the season we thought would be this top 10 caliber back. Like, I don't know what's going on there. And I think in this divisional game, obviously the Bengals can win, but I'm going with the Ravens here. I don't think that the Bengals are gonna be able to put it together against that Ravens team. Joe Burrow, yes, he's a killer, kills the Ravens, but I just don't think that Bengals team is clicking just yet.
I don't pick over-unders or pick them anymore because I'm so bad at them. Like, I'm literally terrible at them. If I give you a pick 'em for over-under, just don't take it at this point. Like, I'm so bad at them. But I will say I've
never been good at them.
I
Ever.
really think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think this is going to be like a touchdown after touchdown game. Like, I don't know what the over-under in the game is, but I think it might go over 60. I could see this one being 38-31, like an insane offensive game. I think Lamar eats. I think Joe Burrow eats. I think Chase eats. I think Bateman finally gets on the board. I think my fantasy team finally starts to do well. I'm just kidding. But I honestly think this is a very high-scoring game. I go 38-31 Bengals.
I'll go.
And by the way, that offensive line has looked a lot better.
27-24.
That offensive line's looked a lot better the last 2 weeks. Cincinnati's.
Joe Mixon still, for whatever reason, can't run behind him though. So I don't know what
pass
that's
blocking. They're keeping Burrow upright. That's what I care about right now. All right, so let's move into pick 'em, fellas. NFL pick'em. So Shal, you got to start us off, brother. Low man on the totem pole.
You guys both go 3-0.
I went
2-1
3-0 last week.
I went 2-1 too. All right. Yep. Well, I already talked about two of them. So Green Bay minus 7.5 against the Giants. Gave you kind of all my reasons earlier. The Giants are going in there super banged up. I think it'll be very workmanlike win for Green Bay. I think they win comfy, just like Cottrell said. I think they win probably maybe 13, 14 points. I will take them minus 7.5 against Giants over in London.
We're in London, baby.
You sound like y'all from London. I will go second game. I'm taking the Chiefs minus 7.5 at home. I think they keep rolling. Raiders haven't been able to stop anybody all year. I think Chiefs go put up another huge number at home. Raiders, I think if they got their first win last week, I don't think they replicate the same kind of performance against Kansas City. That offense is just rolling right now. So 7.5 at home. I'll take Kansas City. And my last game, I do agree with both of you. I think the Rams win the game. That being said, I think it's a close, low-scoring game. That defense for the Rams has not been super imposing as it has been in years past. I think Dallas is going to go in there with the same type of game plan that the 49ers did. I think it's going to be short passes, run the ball, play smart, play safe. Again, I think the Rams do enough to win. It just screams like a 17-13, 20-14, 15, 16 type game for me. I think Dallas covers. I'll take Dallas plus 5.5 on the road.
He said, I'll take Dallas plus 5.5. It screams a 2014 game. Did anybody catch that besides me? Just checking.
He rattled off a whole bunch of numbers there.
I know, but the 20-14 one stood out to me. I'm like, what's going on here? I thought he was going to go under there. I'm like, he just said he doesn't like over-unders. I thought he was going to go with the under.
I'm terrible at them. Terrible at them.
So am I.
If I take the under, that game will be 33-30.
Yep, I'm with you. Same way.
I would say that's the over-under seems to be my way to get wins this week. So I got two of them.
Okay. Get us started.
All right, so first one, 49ers at the Panthers. The Panthers offense, I feel like I come on here, I talk about how bad Baker Mayfield is every week, so I'm not going to do it this week. But the 49ers, on the other hand, I think, Jimmy G's, obviously he's limited, but they get the job done. That over-under right now is at 38.5. I think it goes under. I think the 49ers take care of business. I think the Panthers, they score 6 points. I think the 49ers win that game, 24-6 or something along the line, 27-6, something like that. I think it'll be a lower scoring game. They make sure Baker and company don't score any touchdowns in that one. And then game after that, I like the Thursday night game. Colts at Broncos. Give me the under 42.5. Jonathan Taylor already got ruled out in that one. The Broncos offense obviously still don't have it clicking yet. You would think Russell Wilson with Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton would find a way to score points. And now they're going to be without their RB1, Javonte Williams, for the rest of the season. So both teams missing their starting running back. I think these defenses, hold up, and I think they're pretty sturdy in this game, especially on the short week. I like the under 42.5 there. And then the last one goes against all of my fandom, but I'm going to take the Steelers plus 14 against Buffalo. I don't like, the fact the Steelers are a well-coached team, and there's a reason why this is the first time they've ever been that high up against the spread in the past 40 whatever years. And I think Kenny Pickett is going to light that spark in them, and I think this is going to be a motivated team. They're going to feel as if, before Mitch Trubisky, very limited quarterback, Kenny Pickett adds a whole different dynamic. Obviously, he's capable of running the football, and he's also able to stand in the pocket and deliver some throws. So I think that Steelers team, they're going to rally behind him. I think they still lose, but they find a way to keep that game within 14 points.
All right, gentlemen. I have a square play. I hate having square plays. I feel like I have two sharp plays and a square play. My square play, it just seems too friggin' easy. And I hate doing this. You guys, I brought this up a few weeks ago, and I hate taking big favorites minus the points. I'm taking one this week. I got the Green Bay Packers minus 8.5 over the Giants. I don't understand how the Packers don't win this game by 21 plus points. I think that's a 9:30 in the morning blowout, like a 31-7 game. I don't think that game's close. The Packers have a good defense. The Giants don't have any wide receivers. They don't have a starting quarterback. The starting quarterback's hurt. And the Packers are actually very good against the run. So, like, that's like a recipe for disaster. All my metrics, everything I look at says that's going to be a 21 plus point win for the Packers. So I'll take the Packers minus 8.5 is what I have it at now. I know Shally said 7.5. That's okay. Whatever. Second game, I think this is a little sharper play. I'll take the Commanders plus 2.5 over the Titans. Let me break this down for you. The Titans struggle heavily when they can't run the football. Washington's best asset defensively is their defensive line. I think that with Treylon Burks unlikely to play, you have Ryan Tannehill having to throw the ball to Bobby Trees and Robert Woods and Westbrook Ikini. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm begging you, Carson. Don't turn the ball over 5 times. If you don't turn the ball over and fumble the ball, you'll win the football game. Washington is in a perfect situation this week to win this football game. I'll take them plus 2.5. I think that's a trap for everybody. Everyone sees the Titans coming off the Colts win, and then what they're essentially running up to do is, oh, they only have to win by a field goal over the lowly 1-3 Commanders. Give me the Commanders. Last one. Tiny's going to get mad. Cottrell might get mad. That's okay. I'm 1-0 picking this team this year, and I'm going to pick them again. I'll take the Panthers plus 6.5 at home. Short week after a Monday Night Football game, traveling across the country to play at Carolina. I think Carolina jumps on them. I think the 49ers might win the football game. They might win it by a last-second field goal. I think that's a very close football game. I think the press conference said it all. I think Baker Mayfield is fed up. I think Matt Rule is fed up. I think they have to 100% start moving the ball offensively. I think the Panthers keep this one close. They could win the game outright, but you're giving me 6 and a hook. I'll take it all the way to the bank. Give me the Panthers plus 6 and a hook. That's the pick 'em for this week.
A lot of smoke coming out of Carolina about them trading McCaffrey all of a sudden. It's going to be real interesting to see what happens.
100%.
I just think I think it's funny that, whenever Baker faces a little bit of adversity, we talk about him just being, this pissed off kind of guy and, chip on his shoulder. I know that's what he was like in college, but in the pros, I mean, at this point, you lost 3 straight. Like, when is it you got ran out of town by your last team? Like, when is that chip gonna turn into something? That's kind of where I'm at. Three out. Yeah, you're right. You're right, because they won. They won against the Saints.
Smack the Saints. By the way, that would be like a bonus pick. I'm not going to give that. I can only pick 3. But one of my bonus picks this week, and it's not going to, once again, doesn't count. We talked about this before. But if Kamara, which I think Kamara, Winston, and Michael Thomas play, I think the Saints destroy Seattle. I think Seattle is not as good as you might think they are. They beat a very beat-up Detroit team. They looked awful versus San Fran. They beat what everyone understands is a very bad Broncos team at this point who can't move the ball. I don't think the Seattle Seahawks are that good of a football team. They lost to the Falcons. And then another little sprinkle play. I like the Buccaneers minus the points. I just didn't want to go too chalk. And, the Falcons are 4-0 against the spread. They're the only undefeated team against the spread all year. I think the Falcons lose that this week. So a couple bonus plays for the listeners out there. The Buccaneers and the Saints, but they're both chalk, so I try to stay away from that.
Last thing I read, I think Kamara is the only one out of the 3 of them that's going to play. I think Winston and Thomas are both doubtful. I mean, it could be – I think they said Winston's game time, but they said they most likely want to hold him another week. I agree with you, though. If all 3 play, I think they win the game easily. If not, I think that's a whole different game, but obviously that would change your pick, so you're not going to be held to the fire for that.
I actually think the Red Rifle might be better than Jameis Winston. And I'm not, I don't have that much of an issue having Andy Dalton start if Michael Thomas is there. I watched that game versus Minnesota, and Minnesota is considered to be a very good team, and the Saints absolutely got hosed. That officiating in that game was atrocious. Yep. All right, so college football. NCAA Week 5 recap. I'm going to recap Boston College, baby. Outright Superdog special. And I can't even recap it that long because Cottrell outdid me. Took a 22-point friggin' underdog and they won. Jesus. God, Cottrell, tell us how it happened.
I mean, like I said last week, I thought that Georgia Tech would play for each other in that game. Pitt, they hadn't looked like world beaters, all season. And, when a team loses their head coach, lose their AD, I mean, you really have nothing left to lose at that point. You can go out there, play kind of carefree and play for each other. So I think that's what they did. And they were tasked to go up against the Pitt team that really wasn't that special. So I think it was just the right place, right time for that Georgia Tech team.
Is there a guy in college football that's been passed around more than Keaton Slovis? Just trying to understand.
JT Daniels, maybe?
Yeah, it's another
Yeah, he played like 9 schools.
What was your favorite game of Week 5?
Oh, my favorite one. I mean, there was a lot. I'm gonna give 2 because Gene. This might actually be one of yours, but the Georgia Missouri game was great. As close as that game was, Georgia once it really mattered, they put their heads down, they got to work, and they found a way to get out a win. And I hate using that term when you're going up against inferior teams, but I mean that's really what they did. So that was a fun game to watch. The other one I would go with one of the primetime games, and that's the NC State Clemson game. I keep hating on Clemson, but they keep finding ways to win. So I want to give them all the credit in the world. I do think NC State squandered an opportunity there without being as aggressive, but I want to give Clemson all their credit for going out there prime time and finding ways to get it done.
My favorite game was Friday night game. UCLA over Washington. I loved it because I picked it. I seen the trap coming a mile away, and it was a great football game, 40-32. It was a good football game. UCLA got up big and almost blew it. I don't listen. At the end of the day, if I lose a pick 'em and Chip Kelly loses a game last second that he blows, I'd be perfectly fine with that. It's like a win-win for me. It's like picking Brian Kelly in a game. If he loses, I'm not really that upset about it because I can't stand. I feel like if your last name's Kelly and you coach college football, I can't stand you. So I don't care. You got Mike Kelly, Brian Kelly, and Chip Kelly.
All of them.
Favorite game, Shally?
For me, it's probably the NC State Clemson game. I thought that was a great game. To Cottrell's point too, I think NC State could have won that game. I think they let a really good opportunity to really make this a special season for themselves go. They're firmly behind the 8 ball now. I mean, Clemson would have to lose twice. And to Cottrell's other point, I mean, it's hard to say that Clemson's not going to make the playoff now. I think they have Florida State left on their schedule, and that's probably the only game that really poses them any danger. And it goes back to
rooting for Florida State. You better be rooting. If you're a Big Ten fan, you better be rooting for Florida State because they're going to take one of your spots. Because I guarantee you 2 SEC schools get in.
Georgia keeps playing like that. Now. We'll see. Yeah.
I think part of the issue too is that one of the schools that we haven't even talked about, USC, like they're still undefeated. Like there's still schools in the Pac-12 that are undefeated.
Someone picked them to be in the college football playoff.
I did.
Well, college football is going to be very fun next weekend next week.
I know
next week's
USC
show.
at Utah, right?
Well, just and the rankings will be coming out too. So
yep,
that's when it'll all really matter.
Next week's a ridiculous show, guys. If you aren't here for show 105, man, I don't know what to tell you. Show 105 is the UFC preview. Oh my Lord. Are you full MLB playoffs? Are you guys ready for this?
The UFC preview is still 2 weeks away.
It is. It's not next weekend.
Damn. It hurt my feelings.
Hurt my feelings.
I'm so excited for that card that I want to preview it already.
But I mean, I think the disappointing thing was for me, and me and Cottrell have talked about it since week one when we watched them play and almost lost against East Carolina. They refused to let Devin Leary kind of go out and make plays, which is wild to me because the team was hyped up as much as they were this year because they let him do it. They let him do that last year, and now all of a sudden it's almost like he's running a dumbed down offense, and I don't get it. But again, Clemson survived the week before against Wake Forest and got pulled out another home victory this week. So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of survive in advance, and I don't know who they have left that could beat them. I know they got to go to Notre Dame. I don't think I just don't see them losing that game, and then they have Florida State left. I mean, those are the two games. So it'll be interesting. I mean, you're gonna get the rankings coming out soon, and to Gene's point, I mean, we're going to start talking about Final Four a lot, and it's going to be a lot of moving and shaking going on. It's going to be fun.
Damn right. Let's preview this week. Week 6 preview. Kansas versus TCU. The Horned Frogs destroying Oklahoma last week. Kansas, what is this, basketball season? What are we doing right now? We got an undefeated ranked Kansas. Is this NCAA basketball season?
Going to Lubbock for the first time ever. College game day.
I love it. That's awesome. Good for them. Kansas versus TCU. TCU is a 7-point favorite in this one. I don't know if that's like an overflow of them destroying Oklahoma, but I don't see it that way, man. I'll take Kansas covering the 7. Give me Kansas winning it. College game day. I don't care. I'll take the upset. Give me Kansas 27-24.
They're going to Lawrence, not Lubbock, but Lubbock is Texas Tech.
Right.
Listen, I mean, TCU's offense is dynamic. They can put up points real quick. Kansas does not play real good defense when they do decide to play it. That being said, there's no bigger fan of Kansas than me. I used them in Pick'em. You guys laughed at me because everybody thought it was funny. Talked about them a couple times, and now they're ranked.
We didn't laugh at you. We laughed at what you said.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying
you
you're
don't
making
laugh
fun
at
of me,
your pick.
Yeah. But I think the Cinderella ends this week. I really do. TCU, I think they're gonna have too much on offense. I think they're -7 on the road for a reason. Not sure they cover it. I do think you're gonna get, Kansas. That place is gonna be sold out. That place is gonna be rocking. First time ever having game day there. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to watch. I think it's an early game too, so it'll be one of the it'll be on TV, one of the big networks. I think TCU wins though. I do think it's gonna be way more high scoring than that though, Gene. I like TCU maybe like 41-37, somewhere up there. Don't think they cover. I think they win though. That's gonna be kind of a track meet game. Both those offenses can go.
Control.
I got TCU. I think this is where the rubber meets the road for Kansas. I think that, like Bill just said, that TCU offense there's something special. Max Duggan has been playing lights out football right now. And I mean, on Twitter, I actually just tweeted who I would have as my top 4 guys in the Heisman race. But Max would be right there as well. The guy hasn't, Dante just said it in the comments, guy hasn't thrown an interception all season, 11 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He takes care of the ball, and he also moves the ball efficiently. I think the way that TCU team is, they just got it clicking right now. And Kansas, the story is nice because they're 5-0 going into this point, but they've had a couple games where, some true nail biters. I mean, honestly, they should have lost last week against Iowa State. Iowa State missed a chip shot field goal towards the end of the game that would have sent it to overtime. I think TCU is just a more well-rounded team, and I think they cover that 7. I really do. I think this is going to be a higher scoring game. I'm going to go 38-28 TCU.
Okay. So you think TCU covers? Look at you, just picking big games. All right, speaking of big game, we got LSU versus Tennessee. Games in LSU. Tennessee at LSU. Big game this week. I'll start with you, Control.
So, I mean, this game is most years you would think, oh, LSU versus Tennessee, it's not that big of a game. LSU is probably the much better football team. That's not the case this year. Brian Kelly taking over that LSU program, they haven't really gotten it together. I know they won last week, but they were down big. It took a fourth quarter comeback for them to actually win that game. And Tennessee has been rolling. Hendon Hooker 100% is in the Heisman discussion right now. So I really feel like this Tennessee team is destined for big things, and I think they beat this LSU team.
I'm picking it, so I'm not going to go too much into it right now. Cottrell hit on a bunch of the big points, though. Josh Heupel has that team completely bought in. He's the first person able to go into Rocky Top and really get that school back to where they were. There's been a couple of big coaches come through there, couldn't get it done. That team believes in Josh Heupel, and I think the best player on the field on either side is going to be the guy that Cottrell just mentioned, Hendon Hooker. He makes enough plays. I think Tennessee is more than capable of going in there and winning a football game. LSU, Death Valley, Baton Rouge, that it's legendary how loud that place gets. It is a very tough place to play. It's a night game, I believe. They're going to be ready. They're going to be ready. But I don't know. We'll say I'm going to pick it a little bit, but it's one of those things. Even if I pick LSU and they lose, then oh well, I get to laugh at Brian Kelly again. So it's really not a loss in my book.
Are you cliffhanging it right now? All right, so
like walking to the cliff.
So I think Tennessee is a much better football team. I think Hendon Hooker is the best player in this game. With that being said, I would stay way clear of this game, picking it if you like Tennessee, because the way everything plays out as far as the money, as far as where it's at, as far as the spread, I think this should be a Tennessee -7.5 game. That's kind of the way I seen it. I get it. It's a Death Valley. I understand that. But Tennessee's the much better team, and they've been the much better team all year. I like Tennessee to win the football game. I just think it's something weird happens. They might win it by 2. But I will say this. Tennessee is clearly the better team to me than LSU. LSU has struggled mightily in each game to try to come out with wins. They're 4-1. Don't get me wrong. They've won 4 straight games after losing opening weekend versus Florida State. But yeah, I like Tennessee in this one, just slightly.
To Chris's question, it actually is a noon game, so that's actually I'll be 11 o'clock local time kick. But that's probably an advantage to Tennessee, that not being a night game.
Seven Banks isn't playing either.
Ohio State transfer.
All right. Next on the docket, Utah versus UCLA. I love this game, right? I think I'm picking it. I am picking it. I gotta lay low on this one, but I love this game. Yeah, Charlie, start us off.
I'm gonna go with who I said is gonna win the Pac-12 beginning of the year. I'm going with Utah. I think they're 4-1. I think UCLA had a great game last week. I also think Washington played poorly. Defense didn't show up. Michael Penix had not his best game. Credit to UCLA. They played well. They ran the ball well. Mixed up their offense as well. Utah just has an offense that travels as long with their defense. I think they're a completely different animal than Washington is. And I will go, I think Utah is a crazy play from the 2-yard line away from Florida from being undefeated. So I'm going Utah to win the game. I'll go Utah 24, UCLA 21.
So you have UCLA covering.
What is it, 3.5?
4.5.
Then yeah, they would be covering. Yeah.
There you go. Control.
This game's fun. I think UCLA's offense has looked so much better than I thought it would. Dorian Thompson-Robinson has been playing lights out football. We saw him have, I believe it was 5 touchdowns against Washington, and that receiver, Bobo, he's insane. I didn't realize that he was that good. And then, of course, we've mentioned Charbonnet on the show before. They're running back transfer from Michigan. But I think that Utah defense, I think they have what it takes. I think they're going to slow down that UCLA team. And I do think this is the game where Dorian throws his first interception all season. I think they turn over UCLA and they find a way to get it done. I like Utah to win. I do think it's going to be a closer game, but I think Utah covers, and I think it's barely. I think it's one of those 30 to 24 caliber games. But I like Utah to win.
It's 3.5 right now. I mean, it's probably going to move. I just looked at it right now, but whatever it was when Gene looked at it earlier, it's 3.5 right now. It'll probably move before game.
College pick 'em, fellas. College pick 'em.
Are you picking that game too?
Yeah, I told you I'm picking the Utah game.
You just said that you liked it. I didn't hear that you said you were picking.
I'm picking it, brother. So we're just going. Cottrell, you're the lead dog. What's the order?
I'm going first again because it's been nice to me the past 2 weeks. We'll go me, Gene, and then Bill. My first. Let me pull it back up here. My first. I'm kidding. My first game of the week. So we had a little fun in our group message talking about, how the seeding should be, things like that. The rankings should be at this point in the season. We talked about Georgia. We talked about Ohio State. We talked about, Oregon being the best team that any of the top 3 teams have faced so far this season. And why is that? That's because Oregon beat a BYU team. Well, guess who's facing that BYU team right this week? That'll be the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They're minus 3.5, and they're going to beat that BYU team by 3.5 points. Their quarterback, Drew Pike, he's been 2-0 since he's taken over as a starter, and he hasn't turned the ball over as a starter. So I think that Notre Dame team, they beat a good UNC team. It's like they've just been beating nobodies. They beat a good UNC team, and they're going to go.
We're selling the Ohio State dream right now is what we're doing.
They're going to beat BYU at home. They're going to cover that 3.5 points right there. Another game that's 3.5 points.
They're not home in that game. Don't forget that.
Oh, you're right. It is neutral. It's neutral.
That game's in Vegas.
Yep, neutral site game.
BYU fans,
regardless.
For the TikTok listeners, do me a favor. Start your pick 'em again, and let's just let it roll right through, so I can get it to clip it for TikTok.
Regardless of all of that, I think Drew Pike is going to have the Notre Dame team ready to go, and they're going to go to Vegas, and they're going to win. The spread's at 3.5, and I think a big part of that is, Vegas knows that Notre Dame is the better football team here, and BYU's ranked. They've had the confidence throughout the earlier parts of the year. They beat a Baylor team. Baylor hasn't beaten anybody. I personally think Baylor's overrated. So I think that's all going to come to fruition this week, and Notre Dame's going to cover that 3.5 points. Another game that I like at the 3.5 mark is Iowa traveling to Illinois. Iowa hasn't had any offense all season, and Illinois at this point has it rolling. They're 4-1, and there was a donor that just bought 1,000 tickets for students to come to the game. They're going to have that place packed, and they're going to find a way to win that football game. Illinois has a running back, Chase Brown, who's had an incredible season so far, and I truly think that Illinois team is just going to put up too many points for Iowa to keep up. I think the minus 3.5 is really a gimme. And then the other game I like is Kansas State -2 at Iowa State. Deuce Vaughn has had it clicking on all cylinders. That rushing attack of the Wildcats has been incredible, and Adrian Martinez has added a new dynamic to their offense. And I think against a struggling Iowa State team, they're going to go on the road and they're going to get a win, and it's going to be more than 2 points. And then my super dog pick this week. I call it what you want. Might be hating. It is what it is. Give me Indiana plus 22. I think they cover some points against that Michigan team. I think Michigan wins. This is a week where I don't think I'm going to have the true upset special and get the winner. But I think Indiana covers, and I think that game, it's a 3-possession game, but I like Michigan to only win by 17. Indiana's going to give me a few points in this one.
All righty, I got my 3 this week. So I think my 3 is part of my little agenda also. I'll start with one, I think, and it's the truth. I'll start with one I think that to me, is the biggest no-brainer this week. Biggest no-brainer. You want to talk about what Nick Saban does after a loss or after a game that's really close? We should start talking about what them Georgia Bulldogs do after a game that versus Missouri. I like Georgia minus 29.5 over Auburn. I think they absolutely annihilate Auburn. They get to go play at home versus a big school. They're going to kick the shit out of Auburn. This mark it down. Georgia minus 30. They'll win the game. They'll be up by 30 at halftime. Don't worry. Number 2, I got the Utah Utes minus 4.5 over Chip Belly and UCLA Bruins. Utah wins this game going away. I think that UCLA is coming off that emotional high of beating Washington. Utah has not looked better since opening day loss to Florida. They've actually gotten better every single week. Cam Rising is rising to the occasion. I got the Utah Utes dominating UCLA. I got another one for you. The Stanford Cardinal +7 at home versus Oregon State. Give me the Stanford Cardinal this week. Stanford wins. Oregon State's not that good. Just got the shit kicked out of them by Utah. Stanford wins this game outright, but I'll take them +7. And for my super dog, I got a crazy one. I didn't really like any super dogs this week. I didn't like any of them. And I really start digesting some of them, right? I couldn't pick Hawaii. They stink. I couldn't pick Auburn. I had Georgia. I couldn't pick Michigan State. I can't pick any of these teams. But I'll tell you one team I could pick. Army, +16.5 versus Wake Forest. These two teams played last year to a final score of 70-56. That Army run game cannot be stopped by Wake Forest. Wake Forest is already scared of it. They're already saying, we're preparing for Army's run game. We're going to get punched in the mouth, but you got to punch back. I don't believe it. I think Army keeps this game close. I think Wake Forest wins this one on a last-second field goal. But Army, coming off an awful loss, comes back, covers the 16 versus Wake Forest. That's the NCAA pick'em.
Well, I'm going directly against you on one. My first pick, I'm taking Wake Forest minus 16 versus 16.5 versus Army. You're right, Gene. They can run the ball. They can't stop. They can't throw the ball, and they can't stop anybody on defense. They're 1-3 for a reason. Wake Forest looked okay last week after the emotional Clemson loss. I think Wake Forest at home, I think wins big. 16.5. I think they win by at least 3 touchdowns. Once Army gets behind, they can't sit there and try to prod the ball down the field. They're going to start throwing it. It's not their strength. They suck at it. I think Wake Forest big. Second game, I already said I was picking it. Tennessee -3 at LSU. I'm taking Tennessee. I think it's a joke LSU's ranked. LSU's ranked right now because who they are, and they want to make LSU relevant. SEC wants to have another ranked team, and we just have to throw Brian Kelly another freaking bone for some reason. That being said, noon game, Hendon Hooker, Josh Heupel, all the boys go in, they get it done. I think they win by at least a touchdown. I think Gene nailed this on the head earlier. Tennessee is without a doubt 100% the better football team. I don't think it's close. I think it's 3. I think it's only 3 because I think LSU's getting way too much credit for being at home. I think Tennessee scores early. I think LSU's got to play catch up. They throw a couple picks. This game actually might get out of hand. I think Tennessee -3. My last game, taking Kentucky -9.5 for South Carolina. South Carolina's not very good. I think Kentucky fixes some things after last week. They pretty much pissed that game away against Ole Miss. Most of the game, they were a better team. Ole Miss made the two big plays against Will Levis when they had to, forcing the fumbles. That being said, I think Kentucky was the better team. I still think they're the better team. They go back home. They play South Carolina, who hasn't been able to stop anybody all year. I think Kentucky to roll there. I do agree with Gene with one thing. I hated all the super dogs this week. I hated them. I know Cottrell picked Indiana. I think Indiana stinks. I don't like picking Michigan in any game anyway, so I'm not picking them. A couple of the other ones Gene mentioned, I don't like them either. I'm not putting my faith in Hawaii. Gene taught me one thing a couple years ago, which is still to this day that I believe in. Don't ever make a bad football team try to win a bet for you. Can't argue with the logic there because it makes sense. So I'm going to go out on a limb and just go this way. I'm probably going to lose it. I don't care. I know it's a personal game because of what happened earlier this year. I'm going A&M +23.5 at Alabama. I think if this game does get out of hand, I don't think, even if Bryce Young plays, I don't think they leave them in the game longer than they have to. Maybe A&M backdoor covers. Maybe I get like 3 bonus points or something. I'll go with that game. I fully expect Alabama to kick the shit out of A&M. I hope it happens. I can't stand Jimbo Fisher. I think he's a fraud. But that's the only one that even remotely made sense for me this year or this week. Sorry. So I'll go A&M plus 23.5.
That's our pick'em segment, ladies and gentlemen. We man, pick'em's fun. Pick'em is fun.
It's funny. It's funny about these agenda based. Charlie didn't really go too agenda on us here, but
Nope.
but Gene, you would think after that loss against Kent that was supposed to be that game against Missouri where they beat them by 50. What makes you
You
think
can't have a
this
get
week?
right. They didn't lose versus Kent, just FYI.
They didn't lose versus Missouri either.
They slept walk versus Kent, and they got smacked in the mouth versus Missouri, and they had to wake up and become Georgia again. I think this week you'll see Georgia become Georgia. Listen, you know what's funny, and this is the truth, right? I'm watching the better football, well, supposedly the better football game. I'm watching NC State versus Clemson. I'm watching the better football game, what it's supposed to be. And Cottrell keeps updating me, and Don keeps updating me that Georgia's losing. Georgia hasn't scored a touchdown. Georgia's losing. I turned Georgia on with about 3 minutes left in the third quarter, and they look like Georgia to me. I didn't see them look bad. I didn't go back and watch the whole game, but from that 3-minute mark to the end of the game, they absolutely annihilated Missouri like they should have. With that being said, I think Kirby Smart finally wakes that team up, and I think they absolutely roll Auburn. I think they get up early. I think they turn the ball over, and I think that game gets ugly quick. I think it's 35-0 at halftime. I really believe that.
I mean, Auburn's not a good football
and then you don't have to worry
team,
about it.
So
They're not. But then you got to play Georgia when they're pissed off after they get dropped in the ranks. I think that's part of the reason they played so strong versus Oregon. Like, we just won a national championship, and you have us ranked third, and now they're ranked third again. Maybe Georgia being ranked 3 is
second.
a good thing. Oh, it's okay. They're third. They're third in Shalley's book, and they're fifth in that jackass's book on Twitter. Who was that? That
Joe
posted
Klatt.
Joe Klatt.
Joe Klatt's a jackass. For him to not look, I'll just say it like it is. For him to not think that the SEC is clearly the best conference in college football, I don't know what you're watching. I get it. We have 3 Big Ten fans in here, but it's not close, guys. I'm sorry. We can stand up, but your Ohio State and your Michigan teams last year were better than they are this year. And those teams got their ass beat. Michigan got their ass beat by well, maybe Ohio State's better this year. Michigan got bullied versus Georgia after they bullied Ohio State. They got absolutely bullied. Alabama destroyed Cincinnati.
Georgia's not as good this year as they were last year.
That's also true. And I think Alabama's not as good as they were last year either. No. So I think there's a lot more disparity in college football this year. Honestly, my biggest pet peeve right now.
That's the lie Big Ten fans sell every year. That there's a lot more disparity in college football.
It's not a lie though. Look at how many teams we still have undefeated going into week 6. Like that's not a normal thing at this point in the season.
You have 19 undefeated teams going into week 6. That's crazy.
That's not normal.
No.
So I think this year there's a lot more disparity. You don't see. It's not a normal year. A Georgia team playing a close game against Missouri. It's not a normal year when Alabama has a close game against Texas that they absolutely should have lost. So I truly think college football has more disparity this year. Like I think this might be the year that there's one. I know we had Cincinnati last year. I think this might be another year where we see a team make the college football playoff for the first time since 2014.
And for the record, I don't think Georgia's the 4th or 5th best team. I've said all year I think they're 3rd. All I said I was staying consistent with what I did all year. When Alabama had that scare against Texas, I moved Georgia up. And I moved Ohio State down the first week after they didn't look good against Notre Dame. Georgia has not looked good 2 weeks in a row. All I said is I would move them down. I still think they're one of the best 3 teams in the country. And I still agree that I think those 3 teams are better than everybody else. I think it's a drop to Michigan. I've been consistent with that. I'm just not going to penalize Georgia for whatever you want to call it, a sleepwalk or whatever. That's still on them. You sleepwalk through Kent State and almost lose to Missouri, you should drop. And you saw that in reflection of the polls. When
I'm all right with them dropping. I'm okay with it. And what motivates my team Yeah, I'll say my team.
Clip that. Clip that. There it is.
I got
Here.
two teams in college
He's already
football.
preemptively.
Georgia and Penn State.
He's already preemptively, like, already foreshadowing him jumping off the Penn State bandwagon after they lose next week.
I told you I will not root. I'll
So-
tell you, I told you I will not fully root for Penn State while Franklin and Clifford are there. I won't do it. I hate both of them.
The other funny part, I got two quick things, and I got to head out. But
You gotta go.
The funny part is that I know why you're rooting for Georgia last year. You picked them to win the Natty. You picked Bama to win the Natty this year. Where's that bandwagon going on right now?
I don't know,
you didn't even
bro.
have Georgia in your
did me
championship
so
game.
well. Georgia got me 20,000 views on TikTok. They did me so well. They made me look so good that I have allegiance, right? My uncle lives in Beaufort, Georgia. He's got Georgia hoodies. He's a transplant. I don't know what to tell you. I fell in love with the Kobe Dean. We got the Georgia Eagles.
Dude. Just start yelling.
We got the Georgia Eagles. We got Kobe Dean and Jordan Davis. I don't know.
I'm getting you a freaking UGA sweatshirt
Georgia
for Christmas.
The other thing is,
Brock Bowers.
Georgia, that's the point that I wanted to get to. Georgia has two tight ends that nobody in the country can stop, and they just don't throw them the ball enough. If I'm Georgia, Stetson Bennett, you got to drop back. You're throwing to Brock Bowers or Darnell Washington every single play. I don't care about who's open on the outside.
They needed that third and 3 from like the 13-yard line when they needed to score. They ran that screen pass to Brock Bowers, and he just ran. Like, nobody's tackling me. I'm getting to the 1-yard line.
Throw him and Darnell Washington, your 6'8" tight end, the ball every single play, and you're going to be in great shape. Dumb it down, Kirby. Get your playmakers the ball and let them go out there and not get tackled.
It's funny you said that. I actually think that's one of Georgia's problems. I think not that they're bored. I think they're trying to get too cute. I think they're getting away from what they did last year that worked, and they demolished people. And I think they're trying to do too many things that they just don't need to do.
Maybe they're trying to show teams other things and become a little bit more in games that they're probably going to win. Maybe they're just experimenting.
Yeah, but for that to happen, when you do those things to show new teams, it has to work, and it's not working right now.
It's fair.
But before Control rolls, just to preview next week how exciting it's going to be. We have Clemson. I didn't know this game was next week. I just looked it up. The game we just talked about. Clemson is at Florida State, prime time next weekend at Doak Campbell. That game will be fun to watch. On top of that, you have Alabama at Tennessee. You have USC going to Utah. And then you have the fun one.
Penn
State going to Ann Arbor. That'll be Gene's last official week of Penn State fandom for the season. It'll be full on go Bulldogs after that. So next week will be fun.
Hey, listen, Penn State might blow it this week. Do they play someone? They
might
lose.
They have a bye.
I'm shocked. They might lose during the bye. That's what Penn State's known for. They lose before the big game, so it doesn't become a big game. Remember they did that shit last year with Illinois?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're about to play Ohio State, undefeated versus undefeated, and they lose to Illinois. Like, what are we doing?
That's Penn State special.
Cottrell, you need to quit your job. All right, brother.
No comment.
I appreciate you. Let's get into
people I work with watch this. I can't say anything.
All right, see you
later.
Take care, brother. I want to see what it looks like when he gets moved out. So we got to figure out how to make the graphics a little different.
Just do it this way. This is fun.
Yeah, let me move this up here. I want to remove this. Oh, I know what I could do. Boom. Look at that.
Boom.
It's okay. We're just doing Mount Rushmores. It's okay. Just Mount Rushmores. So let's get into our Mount Rushmores. We got LA2 versus Cincinnati. What would you like to start with, Bill?
We'll start with Cincinnati.
Cincinnati. You got Joe Morgan, Pete Rose, Oscar Robertson, which a lot of people won't understand why Oscar Robertson. He was a Cincinnati Royal.
Yes, sir.
A lot of people don't realize that for like the majority of his career. And one of the best offensive linemen in football history, Anthony Munoz.
Yeah, he's a top 2 or 3 tackle of all time.
Not a bad list.
Nope.
Not a bad list. We're going to have to feed him to the Wolves of LA too, but weall get into that. why don't you break down your baseball guys, Bill, Joe Morgan, and then the scumbag there is Pete Rose.
Yeah, I mean, Pete Rose is heralded for what he did on the field. Off the field, not a Hall of Fame person by any means.
Not a Hall of Fame person, no.
No, not a Hall of Fame person. But that being said, he is the all-time hits leader in the Major League Baseball. I believe 4,200 and something. I forget. Dude could just flat out rake. Yeah, he's the top. He's just strictly hitting, just a pure hitter, not a power, none of that type guy. If you're just going by that, he's one of the best 2 or 3 players to ever hit a baseball, and that's saying something. Joe Morgan is debatably the best second baseman ever play. He's in the top 2 or 3. He's in discussion. I don't think he is, but he's right there. Joe Morgan is a guy that I think a lot of people know more for being on, being one of the guys for Sunday Night Baseball for the longest time, and don't realize how good he was. He was part of the Big Red Machine back then. All those really good Cincinnati Reds teams. Underrated fielder, very good hitter. Had decent pop for a little guy. Could do everything. He was a 5-tool player. Very, very good baseball player. Like I said, he's however you want to cut it, and break it down, second baseman wise. But he's a top 5 second baseman of all time. Very, very, very good player.
Oscar Robertson, the first player to average a triple-double. The Big O was listed as he was a better version of Russell Westbrook before there was Russell Westbrook, and a better version of MVP Westbrook too. Not
Not Westbrook.
The crap he throws out there now, but Oscar Robertson did it all. He could rebound the ball, pass the ball. He could shoot, drive, and score. Top 5 point guard of all time on most people's list. He's running around that 5'6" range. And then you got Anthony Munoz. Some people would say he's the best tackle ever.
Yeah.
This is a very formidable list. It's not a bad list. I think it would have beat some prior list, even maybe a list or 2 that moved on. It might have beat like a St. Louis. We don't know. We'll see.
Probably would have been like a 3 or a 4 seed.
I don't know about that. I think that's a little high. I think they'd be like if we're doing a 32 thing, right? So that means you're running into 8 seeds in each conference and 4 conferences. They would have been like a 5 that could upset a 4.
Okay,
like
so they're 4 or 5. Same area.
You got a bona fide 1 they're going against. You got a bona fide 1. Now, it's LA2, but it's not LA2 like you think it is. So the way we broke down New York and LA for 2 separate lists is because they have multiple teams. You have the primary teams, like the Lakers. You have the Kings. You have the Los Angeles Dodgers. And, man,
LA2 might be better than LA1.
100%. 100%. And the LA Rams. So for LA2, you would have the LA Raiders when they were there. You would have the LA Clippers, the Angels, and then the athletes that reside in Los Angeles. Let me just tell you why that matters so much for LA2. Let's start with LA2 and Anaheim Angel, one of the greatest outfielders ever to play the game. He's still playing today. Mike Trout. Listen, the guy missed half the season. He still almost hit 40 home runs.
No, he hit 40. Hit one today. Hit one in the 8th
40
inning.
home runs.
40 home runs, over 80 RBIs, and I think his OPS finished above 1,000 again. And he missed 45 games this year. Our generation.
Imagine if he played all 45 games. He might have been fighting with Judge.
He finished second in home runs in the AL. That's how crazy that is.
Incredible.
Listen, for like the younger generation, not so much us because we grew up and we did see Griffey and Bonds and guys like that. But for the younger generation, he's probably the best player you've seen play baseball so far. And I'll just leave it at that. If he retired tomorrow, he's in the Hall of Fame. His numbers.
Do you think he is past the kid? Do you think he's past Ken Griffey? I don't think he's past Griffey yet.
No. Trout's underrated defensively. Griffey's definitely better defensively, though. He's probably the second best defensive center fielder ever behind Willie.
Yeah. I agree with that.
I think Trout's offensive numbers, as long as he continues on the pace that he's on, his numbers are going to be better than Griffey's when he's done.
I don't think he's past Griffey yet, but I definitely
No,
think
I
he's
agree.
on
I agree.
a track. But it's incredible because when you said the greatest player that we've ever seen, for a lot of us, that's very close to being accurate. Even me in my mid-30s, that's very close to being accurate. I'll take you, Kyle. You could say I'll take Griffey every day, but if you took Trout's best 6 seasons and put them against Griffey's best 6 seasons, it's a lot closer than you might think, and his career's not over yet. Trout broke WAR, like he broke it. Like it's not like it's just they had to like redo WAR after Trout was just so far ahead of everybody.
He's going to be over 80 after this year already. He'll toward 32 during the season, towards the end of the season next year. You figure if you get another 4 or 5 elite seasons at him, and assuming he can stay healthy, which is ultimately what killed Griffey Jr., his legs at the end. If Trout can stay healthy, he's almost to 400 home runs now. And he hit 40 this year and he played 120 games.
I think it's not a stretch to say he'll hit over 500 home runs. He'll be the third to fifth best defensive out. Like in that club at least.
He's 100%. 400. He's like 3 something now. He's over 350 now. So you figure he has another 2 or 3 good years. It puts him right at 500. If he could stay healthy, he goes to 6. He would have to have some crazy monster years to threaten 7. I don't think he's going to get there. And I'm the biggest.
But 600 home runs from a guy that hits for average the way he does, steals bases, he does everything.
That's going to be the difference. You're talking about a guy who is going to hit somewhere in the 600 home run range. He's going to score 1,500 plus runs. He might have 2,000 RBIs if he ever gets on a team where guys are on base. And then you factor in all the other stuff. You factor in the on-base percentage. His on-base percentage for his career is over 40% still. There's like 8 or 9 guys that have ever done that for a career. His career for his OPS is over 1,000. There's only a handful of guys that have done that. And to your point with the WAR, that's why he broke WAR. He's doing things routinely year in and year out that the only people that have ever done it are Willie Mays, that are, Babe Ruth, those Luke
career
Gehrig.
OPS over 1,000, bro.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Like his
dude.
career OBS is over 1,000. Do you realize how ridiculous that is?
I do. I know
you do,
but he's, well, you know what his nickname is, right? Like they literally call him the kid, but he's told about it numerous times. That how much he loves Griffey, and anytime they do those, like you put your names on the jersey type things, he puts on the kid, but he spells it with 2 I's instead of 1 because he doesn't want to encroach on Griffey. But that's literally why it is the way it is.
All right, so we got to get into another all-time great. You got Tiger Woods. I mean, the guy that put golf on the map for a lot of people that are very casual fans watch golf to watch Tiger. I just kind of wanted to bring that up. Tiger Woods is listed on almost everybody's top 10 athletes of all time. And Tiger in Tiger's prime was unbeatable. I mean, he was just so good. Like they used to have Tiger versus the field bets. Like, do you realize how stupid that is in golf? Like, think about that now. They would never Tiger versus the field.
So, I mean, you touched on 2 of the things. So this is where it gets tricky with him and Jack. Jack's longevity is clearly proving to be better than Tiger's. The sad part about that is most of the stuff with Tiger is self-inflicted, which sucks for people who love Tiger. You brought up another very good point, that Tiger's peak dominant run back in the early 2000s was better than anything Jack ever did. Jack still has more majors.
Winning what was it, the U.S. Open on a torn ACL?
Yeah.
Or was that the Masters?
No, I think it was the U.S. Open. He was hurt at the ACL. He was hurt at the Masters too, though. But he was more dominant than Jack. Jack has the longevity. Jack has the better numbers. It's very close. You're 100% right with the other thing. Tiger did more to grow the game, and that's not Jack's fault. It's not that Jack didn't do anything like that. It's just back in the 70s and 80s, golf was still a predominant, country club white sport. Tiger not only made the game more popular to the average sports fan, like you said, like the average casual fan would turn in and watch Tiger Woods play. On top of that, though, he hit the segment that nobody in golf's ever been able to do. He got young African-American kids interested in the game of golf, and made golf an acceptable sport to them, which has helped grow the sport immensely. He's brought a ton of money into the game. You look at the purses pre-Tiger versus post-Tiger. It's dramatic. It's dramatic. That's all sponsorship. That's all TV money. And a lot of that has to do with Tiger. You could argue competition. Jack overall probably had better competition. Tiger's biggest rival, as we know, is Phil Mickelson. But it's close. It's really close. I don't think it's as far apart as people like to say it is, because most people consider Phil Mickelson a top 10 or 12 golfer of all time. And if he didn't play in the same era as Tiger, you're looking at Phil Mickelson probably having crazy numbers as well. So, and he still does.
And then
but Jack did.
God, I'm sorry.
No, I say, but I mean, you look at Jack. Jack did play with Lee Trevino and that whole group of guys. So it's close. It's close.
And then when you move a little bit further into the greatest female tennis player, and screw Margaret Court, the greatest female tennis player of all time, we're going to have Serena Williams as the third for LA2. So she dominated. The Serena Slam is a thing for just winning consecutive Grand Slam titles. Like, she had 2 Serena Slams in her career, which is absurd. Just winning them consecutive. Like, imagine going an entire year and just one person won every Grand Slam.
Yeah. So tennis is a little bit tougher in this aspect. There's considered what's called the open era, which is obviously what Serena played in. And there's before that where Margaret Court was. I don't want to diminish what Margaret Court did. I don't, because what she did back then, you hit it right on the head when you did her for You Gotta Be Kidding Me. There's a time and a place to do things, and she didn't say it correctly what I truly believe, what I think she meant. It was harder to do what she did back then in regards to some of the things she said, like traveling and stuff like that. If you're talking about skill player, like skill of the level of player, it's Serena and it's not close. And Serena and Venus also did something that Tiger did. They brought a very historically white upper class sport to the masses, and they brought it into communities of African American people where it never was before. All of a sudden, it was cool. It was okay for Serena Williams to be your favorite athlete because she's a stud. And I think that's one of the most important things with Serena as well. She is by far the most physically gifted athlete to ever play the sport of tennis as a female.
I want to add something, because I remember in the beginning of Serena's career, the amount of ugly racism she received overseas in different opens. And for her to deal with all that with as much grace and class as she had and dominate the sport, I want to give her even more credit. Serena Williams is an absolute.
I got bad news for you. It wasn't overseas. It was here.
It was here and overseas. She had to deal with a ton in the Australian Open, and she dealt with it. That was the most notable, when she wouldn't want to go play in the Aussie Open.
The Western Open, I believe, is the one here where she didn't go back to for years. It was her and Serena put up with a lot, or her and Venus, put up a lot of stuff. That was also during the time when her father was very involved and very outspoken, and at some point, I know they all had that falling out before they reconciled, but they asked him to step back because he was not making it worse, because that's not what I want to say, but he didn't make it easier. He didn't help them make it easier on them. Let's put it that way. But her numbers are staggering. There's so much competition in the women's game now. You're never. I don't think you're going to see anybody get close to 24 in our lifetime. I just don't see it.
And then for the last one on the list, you guys can say whatever you want. I don't care what anybody says here. You talk about the greatest coach in the history of all sports. It's John Wooden.
Yep.
We talk about Belichick. We talk about Popovich. We talk about all these other coaches in different sports. Vince Lombardi. I don't care who you. Nobody won more than John Wooden. John Wooden has quotes today, books about success. John Wooden is the staple for winning coaches, especially winning college coaches, winning with UCLA for all those years. So many people, inspiration for coaching is John Wooden. So to have I hate to, I guess we can't do this every time when we get to these groupings going forward, but I really wanted to take some time to really go over this LA2 list because, yeah, by the way, my vote is for LA2. I don't think it's that close. Thank you, Cincinnati, for showing up. I appreciate it. It's a 4-game sweep. But at the end of the day, this LA2 list might be the best list we have. When you go through it, just player for player, and you have Trout, Tiger, Serena, and Wooden. Man, that is a very tough list to beat.
I'm going to come at it from a different point of view, just to put it in perspective of what you're saying and double down on it. Mike Trout is the weakest link on this list right now for LA2.
Yeah.
You either have 1 or 1A best golfer ever. You have the best female tennis player ever, and that's not close. Then you have John Wooden, who you said is the most accomplished coach, either pro or college ever. Like you said, Belichick's great, Lombardi's great, Nick Saban's great. John Wooden won 10 championships in an 11-year span, won 7 in a row, or 10 out of 12, sorry, won 7 in a row. At one point, just think about this. As great as we think Mike Krzyzewski is, or Roy Williams was, or Bill Self, or any of those guys, John Wooden's UCLA team won 88 games in a row. So that's
38 consecutive NCAA tournament teams.
Yeah.
38 consecutive. I think that might be even more impressive.
Yeah.
38 consecutive NCAA tournament games.
And they lost on a fluke play to Notre Dame. So if
say if you're an 8-13 winning percentage.
Yeah. So to put it in perspective, if you're a Duke fan, that is Duke going undefeated for 2.5 years, not losing a game. That's like UConn women's stuff, and then some. It's his numbers are baffling. It's like I said, if you have a list and Mike Trout, who when it's all said and done, assuming he stays healthy, he's a top 10 player of all time. You can be mad at it. You can do whatever you want. That's just what he's on pace for. It is what it is. He's going to be the weakest person on this list. So yeah, LA2 is going to be put in the bracket. Sucks whoever plays them because they're going to knock a lot of people out.
That's what we got for this show. You gotta be kidding me this week, Bill.
I do. Mine's kind of fun. I wish Cottrell was still here because he took his little shot earlier, so I'm gonna take my little shot now. My you gotta be kidding me this week's gonna be Ohio State calling a fake punt up 49-10. They can backtrack and say what they want, it wasn't called, blah, blah, blah. It's BS. They were at 49-10. Rutgers was trying to block it. Again, dude, you're down 39 points with 2 minutes to go. You work on stuff. Their punter decided to pull the ball down and run. And then as he was going out of bounds, he got popped by Rutgers. And then Ohio State got all butthurt about that. If you want to run a fake punt down 49-10, yeah, your kicker's probably going to get smoked. Have some class. I don't want to hear that, he got forced out of his pocket. Ohio State's punter is a rugby-style punter. He always runs to the right anyway. There's always a right way and a wrong way to do things, Gene. We talk about that all the time. If they were all coming from the right side, you run out, you still kick the ball, and you just let it go out of bounds and do whatever. You don't get popped. It is what it is. You don't look like you're a classless team. So this week for me, I will gladly take my shot at the Buckeyes. Ohio State.
Come on. You got to be kidding me. I don't have the sound effect this week. So for mine, it goes back to college football, and there's actually a few. I have a ton to get into. All right, let me go for a good one first. I have a really good one. Brian Robinson has been cleared, and he is going to be back on the Washington Commanders roster. He can practice, and this is just 4 weeks after being shot. So this is come on, you got to be kidding me. There's something that happened in college football, and I don't know why. It's just lapsing my mind right now, but I might have to post it on the page. We can't get the soundbite for "You Got to Be Kidding Me" anyway, but it was 100% in my notes, and I can't find it, so I feel like a complete doofus. But I was struggling to get the show in order with the graphics and things of that nature. This is my second show I've ever ran without anyone helping me run it, so I've been, I don't know, a little bit preoccupied. So I apologize, but I can't remember my second one, but I will post it when I see it. Yeah. So show 104 is the 2-year anniversary. Shad, I got some good news for you. You might not know this yet, but so shout out to Dante at Sports Empire Network, or Dante at ECG. Shout out to Freddie at Sports Empire Network.
Freddie.
So Sports Empire Network is working on a deal to where we would be on Roku TV. Something that they're already doing now for Coffee and Sports in the morning, and we are one of the short list of shows that they want to add to it after the trial period of 30 straight days of the Coffee and Sports during the morning, where our show would air live on Roku TV also. So it's just more and more things. Just more and more things that we're growing in the masses, and I'm super happy. I can't make the full announcement of the place yet because it's still a little under wraps. But I'm super happy with the progress that we've made. Our TikTok has been blowing up, and I really can't wait to start going live from TikTok also, to be able to give more after softball season ends. I'm going to get a fantasy football show in the mornings. Just being able to produce more content. Thank you guys so much for listening. It's been 2 fun years, man. We didn't make a big deal about the 2-year anniversary because I'm going to be honest with you. This to me is just one small stepping stone to where we're going to go. The 1-year anniversary was fun. 2-year anniversary, this is 104 shows. I couldn't be happier with the group we have. We come on every week religiously, 104 straight Wednesdays without missing a show. So you want to talk about consistency and commitment? Cottrell and Bill have done that. So I thank you guys so much for listening each week. Bill, any final thoughts?
No, I mean it's crazy, man. It really does feel like, a couple months ago we showed up in Mike's old apartment to start this, and it's crazy. It's crazy to look at it from our point of view and like how much it organically has grown, and nowhere near where we want to be yet. Like, we're not done by any means, but it's crazy to be a part of something like this that we all dump a ton of time into, but it does continue to grow, and we're starting to reap the rewards of that a little bit. We've been friends with ECG and Dante since the beginning. But now on the new guys at Empire, Freddie and all the boys, like it's everything is, we're starting to catch some of the breaks that we've worked hard for now. And to your point, we're not done. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep coming on here every Wednesday and try to put on the best show we can. And, and just see where we go, man. I mean, it's fun. Like I said, I at the beginning of it, I was super excited, and you just look back, you're like, oh, we did 10 shows, like, oh, now we have 50 shows, like the fact that we've done 104 shows is wild. We have 104 shows of content that we've created all together as as a show and as friends, and a lot of people have helped us along the way, and we're thankful for all that, all the people that have been with us since day one, all the support. It's great. It's just a good feeling. I don't really know how to put it into words, to be honest.
Oh, it's a great feeling. That you put it in the perfect word. Thank you so much for doing that. Thanks everybody for listening and tuning in. This is Wire to Wire Sports Podcast, show 104, signing out.